What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Reformed Reader, the channel where we review different forms of media through the lens of a Christian who is under the authority of the scriptures. My name is Josh, and today we're going to be doing a book review of American Paladin Dust Sacrifice by Larry Correia. So this is a graphic novel that precedes Larry Correia's full-length novel, American Paladin, which is coming out around May of 2026. So at the time of recording, this releases tomorrow. So this is actually my first graphic novel review on the channel. But before we jump into the review, let's first go over what is this graphic novel about. Mike Spears is a drifter with a gun, a grim code, and a habit of following blood trails no one else will touch. Across the forgotten towns and backroads of the American West, storms roll in from places no map can find. Sometime places where the boundary between worlds wears thin. When those borders weaken, monsters get through. Spears makes sure they do not make it back. Now a girl has gone missing, a lost girl that most would write off as expendable. But for Spears, she is someone's daughter, and he isn't writing anything off. The trail leads to a dying town, a masked killer, and a door that shouldn't exist. One that opens into a twisted empire of blood, sacrifice, and ancient hungry gods. Okay guys, if you're new to the channel, the way that I normally structure my reviews is I go over the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good being the things about the book that I enjoyed, the bad being the things I didn't care so much for, and these are only preferential things. Maybe it's the prose, maybe it's a character I didn't like, maybe it's the length of the book. But then I go into the ugly, which is what could be some sin that is steeped into this work that might hold a Christian back from picking it up. And I break that down into 5 categories. But before we jump into that, let's first dive into the good. So what were some things about this graphic novel that I enjoyed? To put it simply, Mike Spears and monsters. Those two things are the primary reason why I absolutely loved this graphic novel, and it has caused my excitement for the full-length novel to just skyrocket. Now, I did receive an arc of this, but there was no obligation of me even doing a review of it. There was no obligation of me saying anything kind about it, so all thoughts and opinions are my own. And I actually received an arc of this because I got to interview Larry about his full-length novel and his Kickstarter. So if you guys are interested in that, I will link that somewhere right here. As most of you guys know, I've absolutely loved Larry's work throughout this past year, and this was no different. So I'm not a real big graphic novel reader. I do read normally one a year. And it's not like, okay, I read my graphic novel for the year, check. It's just, I don't usually tend to gravitate towards them, not for any particular reason. I just tend to prefer full-length novels, but I do always find myself enjoying graphic novels, and I really did with this one. So there's going to be a couple of things that are going to be different than my standard book reviews. So the first, yes, Mike Spears is awesome. The fact that we are dealing with sort of an average Joe that has experienced supernatural things as a boy, and he lived to tell the tale, that he has since decided to devote his entire life to hunting down these monsters and solving these mysteries that everybody else just kind of chalks up as missing individuals or whatever, when really it is something supernatural is going on. And so he takes it upon himself, since nobody else is, to hunt these monsters down and serve adequate justice. Now, a lot of people are going to compare this to Monster Hunter. I probably will at some point, but I will say this is vastly different, because with Monster Hunter, you have a government-sanctioned organization that has limitless funds, whereas with this, you have a guy that is flying solo, a vigilante that drives a beat-up Toyota Tacoma that has limited funding. He's got like a couple of guns, a couple boxes of ammo, and then just a unique set of skills that he decides to utilize to his benefit. So Mike Spears just being sort of an average guy in modern day Midwest America, because that's sort of what you've got. You've got a blue collar guy that is just trying to do the right thing in the best way that he knows how, and to make a difference by helping people who are in true need that are otherwise overlooked. But then on top of that, guys, you've got monsters. I don't think you could have a Larry Correia book without monsters somewhere. The guy loves monsters, and rightfully so. I mean, every book that I've read of his, every book series that I've read of his has had a monster in it of some kind, whether it be fantasy, urban fantasy, or now this. Yeah, there's monsters in here. There's the big bad, and you know it's the big bad, and there's no denying it because they are normally inhuman, hulking beasts, and this is no different. So the characters are great. Mike Spears in particular is fantastic. The monster is pretty unique, and I'll get into that more in just a moment. Let me just brag on something that I don't otherwise get to brag on, which is the art style. I'll throw some pictures up right here, but man, this art style is fantastic. I think I described it when I was talking to Larry as like sort of Americanized anime. And it is just so well done. The colors pop. I mean, the characters' expressions are absolutely on point. So I almost think of this as like an Americanized Attack on Titan. That's sort of how I saw it. And I think that's a pretty apt description, if I do say so myself. But the artwork is just great. And it is super fast paced. I think the entire graphic novel is less than 100 pages. It's like 70 pages. And I flew through this, and I think you will too. So I think you can sit down with this and read it in one sitting. So if you're looking for a good palate cleanser and you love Monster Hunter, or you're looking to get into Larry's works, I think this is a really good place to start because you sort of get a good feel of Larry's work in all aspects in this one very compartmentalized piece of work. And for me, I think it was executed well. So this brings me to the bad. What were some things about this book that I didn't enjoy? And again, these are preferential things. And for me, there are two things. The first one is that it was too short. This is sort of a pro and a con, I guess, because its brevity made me want more. And I would much rather be left as the reader, as the consumer, wanting more than getting to the end of our story and going, yeah, we really spent too much time on that. So he did an excellent job of like setting that hook. And I will say that he set the hook hard for me for the American Paladin full-length novel that's coming out in May. But it is pretty short. So, I think at the time of recording this, last I looked, if you were to purchase this by itself, like off of Amazon, I think you're looking at around $25, which for a graphic novel actually is not bad. I think that's sort of the going rate, but I will say that it's pretty light. So your $25 isn't going to go far as page count goes, but I certainly think it's worth it with the artwork and the amount of effort that is put into this because it is really, really, really well done. And the second thing that I didn't like about Dust Sacrifice is I thought the monster looked kind of wonky. I don't know if I want to put pictures of him up or not, but I thought he looked weird. It's a monster, certainly, and he's meant to look inhuman. And I think what Larry was going for was sort of this like mutated, grotesque thing that is sort of trying to emulate humanity, but because it is trying to, it makes it so much more grotesque. That is absolutely what we get from this. But I just thought he looked derpy. I didn't think he looked extremely menacing. But yeah, he looked kind of derpy. Again, I hope that doesn't like detract from the story or anything. It just wasn't my preference. I understand, and I think some people are going to really enjoy it, but it sort of gave me that similar feel when I used to watch X-Files or Kolchak, as that, not all monsters are created equally. And so this one, it definitely seems like a lesser monster. And again, I think it's sort of that build up to the full length novel. And so because of that, I don't think that Larry wanted to pull out all the stops for this one monster, because I think, and this is just me projecting here, but I think we have something crazy and wicked in store for the full length novel. So like I said, it's not that the monster just looked dumb or not scary or anything. It just looked weird. I don't necessarily want to say good or bad. It wasn't my preference. That's really all I can say there. But yeah, otherwise, I don't really have anything to complain about. And so this leads me into the ugly, which is what could be some sin that is steeped into this work that might hold a Christian back from picking it up. And I break it down into 5 categories, starting with violence and brutality. Now for violence and brutality, I'm going to give this a 7. Pretty violent, couple brutal moments, nothing too heavy. I'll say this, if you guys have read Larry's work before, it'll be much more of the same as far as his levels violence and brutality goes. I don't think you're going to see anything in here that's going to surprise you. If you're new to Larry's works, I would say it's pushing past PG-13. This is sort of some rated R violence and brutality. There's one really cool fight scene in here, and to see our main character's tactical abilities, yeah, that was really cool. But there are a couple of more gory moments in here, just a couple of frames. So, if you're real sensitive to that, this may not be for you. But I will also say that if you're real sensitive to some gore, some violent acts, that Larry probably isn't the author for you. I will say for the average reader, or for those of us who have read Larry's works before, I think it's just I don't think you're going to be surprised at all. And I don't think it's going to pull you out of the story. But just know, yeah, it's in there a little bit, but how could you not have that when you're hunting monsters? So this leads me into category 2, which is sexually explicit content. And for sexually explicit content, I'm going to give this a 0. Yeah, there's nothing in here. And you don't have time to spend dealing with anything like that. It's just not in here, guys. Nothing really else for me to say. So this leads me into category 3, which is language. Now for language, I'm going to give this a 6. Yeah, there's language in here. Again, for those of you that love Larry's works, a lot more of the same. Nothing really new as far as like his intensity levels. They haven't been turned up. I don't think they've really been turned down. But again, we're dealing with less than 100 pages here. So there are a couple of moments where emotions have been heightened, and for good reason, and some language does come out. But I don't think there's a lot in here that's going to keep anybody away as far as those who are interested in getting into Larry's works. So category 4 is going to be gratuitous inclusions. And for gratuitous inclusions, I'm going to give this a big fat 0. Nothing gratuitously inclusive in here whatsoever. I'm happy to report, yeah, it's a 0. And the final category is dark themes. Now for dark themes, I also include heavy themes. And for dark themes, I'm going to give this like a 3. Now, some of you may be going, well, how could it be that when it's like a monster book? Or, I mean, there's some things in here where like some summonings and stuff, but you kind of already know what to expect before you get into it. I don't think there's anything in here that's overly dark or overly heavy that's going to pull somebody out of the story. Again, for those of you who are more seasoned Larry Correia readers, I think you're going to absolutely love this. And it's just the right amount of sort of those dark themes so that we can then see the light, right? The darkness makes the light that much brighter, and it makes us love our main character that much more because we are on board with his vigilante antics in order to enact justice for those who are otherwise silenced. This leads me to the final question, which is, would I recommend this to a Christian? And the answer is, it just depends. I think this is going to appeal to a much smaller group of people. So again, for people who love Larry Correia's works, yes, I think you're going to love this. So if that's all you're looking for, yes, pick it up. It's great. For those of you who haven't dove into Larry's works at all, and you're sort of on the fence, I'm going to say this is a good litmus test for you. This will kind of let you know whether or not you're looking to get into his Monster Hunter series, or some of that stuff. I will say this has a different tone than his Academy of Outcasts series that he released. So maybe don't use this to judge all of his works, but I will say that this is a good tone setter for his Monster Hunter series, which is his most popular series. So if you're looking to get into that and you're not really sure, this is a great place to sort of springboard into that. If you have read Monster Hunter and you enjoyed it, I think you'll enjoy this as much, probably more. I actually look forward to getting into American Paladin because I think I'll like it more than Monster Hunter. But would I recommend it to a Christian? It's going to take a particular individual. It's going to take somebody that likes those same kind of books that I've talked about with Monster Hunter, those sort of like dark fantasy that can lean into those horror elements. But then on top of that, you have to sort of pitch it to those who like graphic novels, because not everybody does, and that's okay. But I will say that this is, in my opinion, well worth it. So overall, guys, what did I think of American Paladin Dust Sacrifice? I thought it was great. I definitely think it's worth your money. I think the artwork is stellar. I think the cover, which I'm going to put up again right here, I think that cover is really, really cool. And I actually think I like it more than I like his American Paladin, the full-length novel cover. I just really like this art style. I think that, in my opinion, if Larry were to ever see this, I think he needs to try to work with this artist more and more, because it is just phenomenal. But like I said, overall, it's short, it's sweet, it's punchy, it's in your face, and it leaves you wanting more. So if that's what you're looking for, that high octane monster hunting vigilante story, look no further, because this Really is fantastic. So thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me and listening to me ramble about this graphic novel for a little bit. Guys, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. But more than anything, I ask that you guys share these videos with your Christian brothers and sisters, maybe who love to read, so that I can be a good resource to them, so that maybe we can spend our time, money, and energy a little more wisely on things that honor the Lord. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.